Okay.
I do too.
So the 1-3 profile, this would be
Mhm.
the investigator martyr. And then quantum human design is referred to as the resource would be the line 1, explorer, line 3. The main themes here for this profile, the 1-3, is that it's the only profile that has its two numbers are both in the lower trigram.
Mhm.
Remember, it's 1, 2, 3 is lower trigram, 4, 5, 6 upper trigram. And
Mhm.
so this is
Yeah.
a combination of that line 1 investigator energy needing information and likes to dig in and get all
Mhm.
the knowledge combined with this trial and error experimenting approach of the line 3. And so since they're both lower trigram profile lines, it's very self-focused. The first 3 lines are all about the self and being more
Mhm.
inward and learning through the self. And so at first, I was going to give you your more well-known profile, people with these profiles towards the end, but then as I was going through them, I was like, no, it kind of helps if you have these people in mind as we are moving forward
Mm.
and going through what it means.
Okay. I got what
Um,
you're saying.
yeah, for you personally, you know a 1-3 very well. I believe
What's up,
your
Presley?
husband is a 1-3 profile. Mhm.
Yes.
Also, Princess Diana was a 1-3.
Mm.
Beyonce,
Ooh.
Vincent van Gogh, Hillary Clinton, and
Okay.
somebody you
Okay.
may not know, but some of you listeners may know, Swami Yogananda.
That's fun.
Yeah, no, I like Yogananda wrote autobiography of a yogi.
Oh, I know
Yogananda
that title.
helped, yeah, he helped bring yoga and yoga philosophy to the West in the
Oh,
previous century. Anyhow,
okay.
line ones learn through their own personal experience of themselves, right, in relation to the
Mhm.
world. And they need these secure foundations in their knowledge and information that helps them build that foundation that they're looking for is
Mhm.
information, right, through their intellect and pulling that in. And then once they feel like they have enough information, a foundation of knowledge, then they feel that they can take that and experiment with it, test it out, and see if it really
Mhm.
works or not. And through that process, that will in turn eventually, I mean, they don't seek out their networks and everything else people notice from them. They will probably ask them for that information, but everything they do is for the not for
Mhm.
themselves, but it's for their own experience
Mhm.
to really understand if it's something valuable and if it works. So it's kind of like the energy of the mad scientist type, where
Mm.
it's somebody who has all these ideas and takes all this information in and is learning, but then realizes, well, can't do anything with this until we have to test it. We have to experiment with it and see if this really is something of value and if it works.
Mhm.
So they, as a line one, they're rather introspective and they try to not really draw too much attention to themselves because they kind of want to be left alone to be in their own process most of the time.
Mhm.
And they tend to see things in black and white. They're not very comfortable with gray areas in life. They like want to know yes or no. It's like it is or it isn't.
Mm. I don't think that one applies to Presley as much. He is all about the gray areas.
Well, you mean indecision or
No, like one of his favorite arguments, if we ever do discuss politics, is like he'll start going into the gray area of an issue and be like,
Mhm.
well, what about if it's this or if it's this?
I would say that, that would be more of a because he does have that investigative nature, that trialing nature, experimenting nature. I mean, maybe he is experimenting with possibility of what could be. I
Or
also know he just kind of likes to engage in
he would
not
have
not arguments,
he would
but
have
he
made a
likes
freaking good lawyer. He likes to argue his case.
yeah, that's what I didn't want to say argue because he's not like a argumentative person, but he
No,
definitely
no.
likes what do they call it?
Debate. He'll debate.
A verbal debate, discourse, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it, for
I'm
sure.
pretty sure he said his favorite class in high school was like not like a debate, not high school, college, like not a debate class, but it was like
Debate
something along the
club.
lines where no, it wasn't like a club, it was like an actual class he took, but basically they just spent the whole class debating issues, and he was his favorite.
Yeah, that's that line one energy. I definitely would do that too. I thought I would be a lawyer when I was young because you like to use information. You like to, I mean, I know from observing him, he's always like me
Always gathering.
gathering.
Hmm.
We express it differently eventually, but definitely that one line energy is strong because that
Yeah.
is his personality side of his profile, is that need for knowledge.
Hmm.
But he can never line one or one threes can never just rest on other people's knowledge. They love the knowledge, they want the knowledge, but eventually they do have to, if it's something they really want to have a strong foundation in, they're going to have to test it out themselves. The
And then,
theories, the
so I love
practices,
that you
whatever.
say that, because then he gets annoyed with me
Hmm.
if he's like, why can't you just accept what I say? I'm like, well, I want to see it for myself. But then he gets mad at me for not just accepting what he's told me, even
Hmm.
though I'll look it up and he's right. But he's
Hmm.
like, can you for once just accept what I say? I'm like, no, I gotta look it up for myself.
Well, to be fair, in your young line six energy, that's line three energy as well. That like, well, have you tested it out? Do you know? Can you be sure? How can I be sure? I don't know. Anyway, so a line three, or excuse me, the 1-3 profile is designed to meet life, challenge life, and make it better. So these people tend to feel happiest when they are prepared in their knowledge, but at the same time, they're also not here to be really overwhelmed by the outside world and their input. They will listen to someone else, maybe an authority on things, and they will maybe take that advice or even that teaching or whatever, as long as they think what that person is telling them or who that person is actually knows what they are talking about. They won't just take advice from anyone. Like they want the authority,
Hmm.
basically, because they themselves need to know that there is something of value there that they can then use as they
Hmm.
find their own way through it. And so there is this two approaches to life in the 1-3, this very mental, intellectual way of interacting with life, and then a very hands in the clay kind of thing, more messy, trying it out type of thing. So
Hmm.
in your own personal experience, it'd be like, I mean, I don't want to out him too much, but he won't ever really listen to this.
He won't listen.
It's a large part of that because profile, like we said, it doesn't live in isolation, right? It
Hmm.
is part of your whole design. And we know from him that a lot of his design is this initiating energy. He's a generator,
Hmm.
so he has to respond, but a lot of his influences and his gates is about intuition and knowing when to act and to start new things, and he's got these gates in his incarnation cross that are
Hmm.
the ambition and drive and starting new things. So pair that with his profile of the 1-3, you can kind of see how, especially in his early life, he's been experimenting with a lot of different things. You guys have tried, even though he's had his solid foundation with his job,
Hmm.
he's also been experimenting, using all these things he learns along the way about business and business. I know he's so focused on business, to try
But
and
also
create
like
something of his own.
creating things.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
create something of his own. I know he studies a lot of these marketing and finance, and he's been into real estate, like all these different
Hmm.
things. But then he went and tried them, and it makes him a little hard on himself at times too, because things haven't always panned out, but that's not really important. He's just here
Hmm.
to try and experiment. It's part of the process for him. There's, for line 3 in particular, to learn that there aren't mistakes, there's just more learning, right? And
Hmm.
everything is adding to his tool belt, so to speak. So
Yeah.
anyways, if the line one part of this personality feels like that researcher energy gets stifled, like they're not allowed that time to explore and, I mean, their intellect, gather knowledge, all that stuff,
Hmm.
they can feel rather insecure because they haven't done their proper research. Like if they're forced to jump into anything, it could be really not good for them because they don't feel secure enough to do it. It won't work out for
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
So the challenges they have to get through is they have to make sure they don't get just stuck in the research phase, right?
Mhm.
At some point, they're going to have to just realize they might know enough to go ahead and start getting their hands dirty and moving
Mhm.
into it. Likewise, if they jump into something without doing their research, it could have really dire consequences in some instances because they might think they know but they don't know. And so
Mhm.
one example that is given is, say someone decides that let's just go for it, let's
Mhm.
jump into it and see what happens, but that can be really bad. Like you wouldn't just jump off a cliff without knowing how deep the water is underneath of you.
Or without a parachute.
Right. You got to do your research and know if you're jumping into water that's deep enough.
Mhm.
Maybe watch some other people do it first, see if it's right. Try it out for yourself. So,
Mhm.
important things for the 1-3 is to make sure that everything is just a learning experience and to always ask yourself, especially if you're feeling down on yourself about maybe what you perceive as a mistake, be like, okay, what did you learn from this experience? What can you take from this and move forward?